Hey everybody, I'm back with video number 2. My name is Chris, and this is my audio obsession. So first off, I would really like to thank Mark G with a C and Liam the Death Doom Metalhead. Both you guys took the time to pass the word around and to give me a few pointers and help me out, and I absolutely appreciate it. Especially with Liam, you gave me a shout out on your last video, and now it seems like I've got some stuff I have to live up to, so thank you very much. I'd also like to thank everybody who did subscribe and who left a nice comment. Words of encouragement, fantastic. I really wasn't sure if I was going to be doing this, but after everything I read, I thought, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. I'd also like to thank my 2 daughters who commented as well, just commented to say hi. Hi. So, what I want to do is a continuation of my first video, which basically was me showcasing stuff that I had in the past, say as a kid, teenager, whatever, growing up. I've either still got them, or for some reason or another, I had to get rid of them at some point in time. And I reached a point in my life where I decided I needed to get these back in my collection. So, this is basically what I'm going to continue showcasing. Maybe for the next video, next couple, not really sure at the moment. But I'll also start showing some of the new stuff that I get periodically, in and out, whatever. So, back when I was a teen, well, probably preteen, when I was into my AC/DC and then I moved on to Metallica because I wanted heavier, I needed heavier again, but I wasn't quite at the point where I was ready for death metal. I didn't know that fully existed at this point. So I was on the search to have what I would consider be my favorite band. I needed to have the favorite band. Everybody's got a favorite band. And at that point, I didn't have mine yet. I needed to have it. I ended up coming across Slayer. Now, for many years, from that day on, when I discovered Slayer, they were my favorite band, hands down. Absolute favorite band. Everything I did was Slayer. In school, I'd be drawing all over my books, drawing the sword pentagram, the Slayer logo, what, you name it, I did it. And the very first album that I got into, which I actually have here, is my cassette version. You can see that there, Slayer, Hell Awaits. Still plays perfectly fine, even though I use the crap out of this thing every day for I don't know how many years. So, I'm not exactly sure how many years back now, I ended up coming across the vinyl version. And when I saw this at the store, I had to have it, because that cover, it brought me back to that very first time hearing Slayer. I'd be drawing this cover and learning how to draw as a kid from covers like this. This album played a huge part in leading me further into the direction that I've stayed with so far up until today, being metal, all various forms of metal, which I can attest started from around here. This particular album is an absolute classic. Everybody who's into Slayer knows this album, and there's a good majority of people out there that will say that this was probably their best, if not just below, say, Rain and Blood. I was pretty much a fan, #1 fan, all the way up until about Seasons in the Abyss, and then I kind of started drifting off a little bit. Musical direction started changing, new stuff coming in, what have you. Now from there, I came across what would be considered Canada's version of Slayer. Around that time, when I found out about this band, you got to remember this is well before the internet, so in a small town, I had trouble finding out about stuff like this. You really struggled to find out about bands. And really, back then, I didn't know how many bands were actually out there. Information just was sparse. So I came across what I considered to be Canada's version of Slayer. And that would be Sacrifice, with their first record, Torment and Fire. Now this one just happens to be an original pressing, which I'm very grateful to have in my collection. Now, this particular album right here, even though it came out the same year as Slayer's Hell Awaits, if you didn't know, you would have said that this would have been a Hell Awaits worship album. Which, I mean, granted, it's definitely got that same similar sound to it. That could have been a sign of the times, who knows. But the only thing that I noticed different, and I started to appreciate it later on in life, as I got older, listening back on this album, even though they kind of sounded like Slayer on the early stuff, they were actually, in my eyes, more talented. The guitar on this album, even, when you really listen into it, you go, whoa, these guys are actually, I'm sorry, but they're kind of kicking Slayer's butt here. These guys are talented. And not just the guitar, everything, every single instrument and musician in this band is like fantastic. So I don't know, like after this now, when they went from this album to say their next album, which was For Determination, they then, you could see where the talent was and where it was taking them. So now they were really separating themselves from the sounding like Slayer. They had a lot of thrash influence to them, but they had melody, they had technical ability, and the technical ability, I say, was definitely far surpassing where Slayer was. So that would be Canada's version. From there, this is when I started kind of diving into, I need more heavy. And I believe I mentioned it in the first video, there was a record store, or sort of CD store that I used to go to that was downtown from where I lived. It was called Station to Station. Now, they had some employees, after a few years that had been working there, they decided, you know what, we're going to open up our own. And they did. And they called theirs Tantrum, which was maybe like a block away. And they pretty much, it was kind of like a mirrored image store. They had their own stuff that they could get, you know, a few things that they could get that the other store couldn't. So I would flip-flop back and forth. But both stores, what they had, which was my saving grace for a kid that didn't have much money, was the used section. Now, where they got these from, I have no clue, because a lot of this stuff was hard to find. I came across this album. Now, this particular album right here would set me off to just trying really hard to find, I need heavier, I need faster. It's a compilation. This would be the very first Death Is Just the Beginning compilation. Now, this compilation right here is literally just stacked. It's completely stacked. You've got bands like Defecation, Atrocity, Incubus, Righteous Pigs, Disharmonic Orchestra, Pungent Stench, Benediction, Abomination Master. This thing is loaded. And I was so lucky to get my hands on a copy. Now, mind you, at the time, it was a CD that I picked up. This I just actually got within the past few months, which cost me damn near an arm and a leg to get it. But I had to have it. Once I saw it, I needed to have this. Absolutely incredible. Now, from there, this is where I found out about this band because they just happened to be on that compilation. And when I saw a picture of the cover, oh man, I was hooked. Me and art, the cover on it, that draws me in first, especially if I don't know anything about the band. And this one did it for me. Now, keep in mind, this is a repress, so it's not an original one, and I'm planning on it. I will have one in my hands. They're just bloody expensive because people know how much they're worth. So, right here, you can see that. Opprobrium, which used to be called Incubus. Beyond the Unknown. Now, this record right here was an absolute favorite of mine. Unbelievable band, and I was kind of sad that they never actually took off like the rest of the bands that were playing around the same time, because they had fantastic stuff on this album. Now, they ended up changing their name to Opprobrium because there was a certain time when they decided they were going to stop for a while, so they kind of disbanded. Then, after a few years, they decided, we're going to get back into doing it again. Well, unfortunately, there was another band already making waves with the name Incubus, and these guys, clearly they couldn't contest with that band because they just couldn't afford the same type of lawyers that band would have, so they decided to change their name. But this album is still in my top 10 favorites of all time for death metal. It was, oh man, it was so huge for me. I am disappointed that it didn't end up taking off, because it should be with the top death metal bands. By far. Absolutely by far. Now this next one here, actually first I will show you my original copy that I got. This would have been my first album from this band, and when I heard it, this album had everything I was looking for. It had the deathly growls, well, not so much growls, it was a little more higher pitch, but it was raspy. They had the fast drumming, the guitar work on it, and it was thrashy, and every single song was catchy. There is not one song on this album that's not catchy. And that would be Death's Leprosy. This was a huge one for me. When I heard this, I was completely blown away. Completely blown away. I was a massive Death fan after this. And I managed to get myself a copy on vinyl again. This one would be a repress, obviously. This one, I think came out 2014. Now, this was another cover that drew me in. I was sucked in by the artwork. I remember even, this would be another logo that I would sit in class and just draw all over my stuff. Chuck was a huge guitar influence for me. His style, now they moved away from the other bands from where it all started out in like that Florida death metal scene, but his guitar playing was just something else, like just unbelievable. Now from there, I've got another one that I managed to get my hands on, which I've been looking for a while. This, I will say without a doubt, is my favorite album from this band. It was actually also the first album that I picked up from them. And once again, at the time when I didn't know who the band was, all I did was see the cover, and I was like, yep, okay, that's gotta be good. And we can see that. Testament. Souls of Black album. Now this, another absolute huge album for me. What can you say about Testament that they were a band that had just everything going for them? So back in, say, I guess this is going to be in the 90s, you had your thrash bands, which were the big four thrash bands. So the big four would have been your Slayer, Metallica, Anthrax, and Megadeth. In my eyes, there should have been the big five. And there is no reason why this band should not have been lumped in with the rest of those bands. Quite honest, I would venture to say that, at least in my eyes, they surpassed some of them in the talent and musicality of what they were putting out. I recall, oh my god, how many years ago? Handful of years ago, I was on some message forum just looking up stuff on Testament, and somebody piped in and said that Testament was just a crappy version of Metallica. What? Are you on glue? Like, seriously, are you on glue? A crappier version of Metallica? Now, okay, keep in mind, I was a fan of Metallica. I was a fan of Metallica up until, well, I did like their Black album, but I'd say I'd prefer all their previous stuff anyways. But a statement like that, I had to sit there and think, you got Chuck Billy on vocals. Now, his vocal range on every single album they put out, he has a range. He would have his deep growls, and he had some more higher pitched, he had his thrash vocals, and he could sing when they would have, you know, some of their, like, I guess you'd say ballad-esque type tunes. He had a set of pipes on him. The guitar work alone with Testament, Alex Skolnick, like, I mean, come on. As much of a fan of Metallica at the time I was, I'm sorry, but Metallica could not compete with his riffs. Not only that, but his lead work was just absolutely phenomenal. And I would put that in part with his obvious classical training. He is a virtuoso, like, hands down. Not only that, but the bass work, the drum, like, everything about this band, to me, kind of far surpassed Metallica. It's just, for some reason or another, they just didn't hold the weight with everybody. The fans just didn't kind of carry them along with the other bands. So I'll never quite understand that. Now, granted, Testament did make a name for themselves, and they were extremely popular. But they should have stayed more popular and more relevant with those bands. Like, I'm sorry, when Megadeth came out with, like, Risk and stuff, like, I can listen to it now, but I mean, no, going from, let's say, Rust in Peace to, like, Risk, I know what you were trying to do, Dave, but it just didn't work. But yeah, this will always be a favorite album of mine, and this will be something I'll never get rid of. So, I think I've pretty much tried to keep the time down a little bit on this one. I'll say probably my next video. I might do another one. Same lines pretty much. And then I think what I'd like to do is start, bringing in showing you some stuff that I've been getting in recently. Still may not be like up-to-date music, like brand new, but whatever. That's what I got coming in. It's what I like, and maybe you'll like it too. And I'm sure there's probably lots of people that probably already have it, so whatever. We're just going to continue the conversation and just talk about music. And that's exactly why I'm doing this, because music is a huge passion of mine. And without music, I got nothing. Family first, but without music, I got nothing. So I really appreciate, once again, everybody saying some nice things. I'm kind of blown away still, like, I had that reaction right away from people to say, hey, you did a great job, and it's really nice to hear stuff like that. So, I'm gonna keep it up and see what I come up with. So I really appreciate everybody watching, and until next time on the next video, we'll see what happens. I'm Chris, and this is my audio obsession. Thanks.